We're back with the attorneys Londell McMillan and Diane Goodman. They're not partners, by the way. Londell represents Catherine Fully, right? You're her lawyer.
Yeah.
And Diane represents her in matters of custody, right?
Correct.
Do the children know all about what's going on?
I hope not.
Don't they have to almost?
I think they have some sense of it. They had to be interviewed by the probate investigator, so I think they have some sense. But we've tried to shield them from as much as possible. And my goal is that the media leave them alone and let them get a chance to grieve their father's death and just grow up.
Think that's an expectant goal?
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, that would be nice. Has this case, barring all the publicity, in fact, over-the-top publicity, has it gone well?
The case?
Yeah.
The case for petition filing for the custody, I think, has gone extraordinarily well. We couldn't have expected it to go better. In terms of the estate, it can go much better, and we hope it will get better.
What's the problem?
Well, the problem is the issue of who is and who should be the executors and the trustees, and what happened between the time of 2002 and 2009. And at the time of death, there's no question that Mrs. Catherine Jackson was Michael Jackson's most trusted person from a personal and business standpoint.
But it is rare, is it not, to have a 79-year-old trustee, since your trustee is going to pass away well before the children need money?
Not at all. Not at all. Because because a trustee is not an expert in matters of administration or entertainment or media or whatever this estate has. A trustee is a person who's trusted, a person who has honor and integrity with respect to the decedent. And I'm not going to take away from the other gentlemen, but I know for a fact there's no one in the world that was trusted by Michael Jackson more than Miss Catherine Jackson.
What happens if, God forbid, she passes?
Well, there are provisions under the probate code as well as under the trust documents that haven't been disclosed publicly yet. But there's provisions that allow for how do you replace a vacated seat. For example, there were originally 3 seats. There were 3 persons designated. One chose to leave. Under this particular trust, the remaining trustees and executors can appoint a 3rd person. So there are provisions for that.
Are the trustees paid?
The trustees are paid.
Okay. What did you make of the Arnold Klein lawyer coming?
I was totally confused by it.
What did he want?
Well, he couldn't even tell us. He said his client was concerned about the children's education and welfare. The judge made it very clear that he didn't have standing, and I'm not sure what he was really looking for.
Are you?
From a legal standpoint, no standing.
Okay. Dr. Klein was a guest on this show early last month, and we asked about speculation surrounding paternity. Watch. What about all the rumors about you and the fathering of those children?
Here's the most important thing. Michael loved those children as a father. Those children loved him as a father. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the most important grouping there is.
That's not answering the question.
No, because I'm not going to answer it the way you want to answer, because I think...
Well, you can say no.
I can say no, then. I'll say no, if that's what you want to hear.
No, I want to hear what you want, what you know.
What I will tell you is that, you see, because I hear what's most important about this whole thing, to end this thing, is that the most important thing of who the father is who the father is, who the children want their father to be. And I will tell you this, I will say no, because the most important person to these children is how Michael loved them and how he loved his children and how they loved him. Because they would never go past him without saying, I love you, Daddy. He would say, I love you.
So is on...
Well, since Jackson's death on Thursday, his family's expressed concern over who was advising him in his final days, and there are several new questions this morning about Jackson's state of mind before he died. Joining me live now on the phone is Michael Jackson's spiritual advisor, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. He's the author of the upcoming book, In the Soul of Michael Jackson. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and I hope you are too, given the loss of your friend and someone that you were advising for so long. When was the last time you talked to Michael, and what was his state of mind?
Well, I haven't spoken to Michael in years, and to say former advisor is much more accurate. The fact is that you cannot stand around and watch someone you care about kill themselves. Michael has been abusing prescription drug medication for so many years, and I would regularly plead with him to get the poison out of his system. And to be perfectly honest, he was receptive. I mean, I still remember one evening in particular when he walks into a room with a doctor complaining of he had so many phantom ailments, and he walks out all lightheaded and woozy, and I said, you got to get that poison. You have to stop just poisoning your body. The next day he came for dinner at our home, and he stood during dinner because he said that his back was hurting him, but he had heeded my advice and he had not taken any kind of painkillers. The fact is that there were doctors on hand who were enablers, and it's very important to discover exactly what happened. Everyone knew this was coming. This was inevitable. I said on a CNN interview in 2004 that Michael did not have long to live because nobody could survive this level of an assault. I also want to mention, when you said that I'm writing a book called The Soul of Michael Jackson, this is not exactly my book. Michael sat down with me between 1999 and 2001 to conduct 40 hours of taped interviews, extremely jarring, raw interviews about
A major FBI sweep in New Jersey has landed more than a dozen public officials under arrest. The corruption bust is part of a decade-long federal probe that uncovered human organ sales and money laundering. Among those arrested, the mayors of Hoboken and Secaucus, New Jersey, as well as the deputy mayor of Jersey City. Several rabbis in New York and New Jersey are also under arrest.
The politicians willingly put themselves up for sale. The complaints show that for these defendants, corruption was a way of life. They existed in an ethics-free zone.
Joining us now is Bob Ingold, New Jersey bureau chief for Gannett. He's also the co-author of The Soprano State, New Jersey's Culture of Corruption. Bob, how does this all fit in? Is it typical? Is it worse than usual?
I think this one is in the classification of worse than usual. It was said to be one of the bigger sweeps that they've had, and apparently it really was. This one cut across a lot of ground. Usually they'll nab one or two people, and they had to bring them in buses this time.
Bob, when we think of Soprano style, you have this image of the mob, not rabbis. Several rabbis were involved in this. What role are they allegedly playing here? What do they have to do with the mob?
Well, as I understand it, the rabbi involvement had to do with alleged international money laundering. But when we wrote the book, we called it The Soprano State because it's the way the government treats the people. They treat the taxpayers as if they were the mob dealing with people who couldn't defend themselves. They leave them somewhere in an alley to, take care of themselves. And then the culture of corruption is the subtitle of the book, and I think that's what we're really dealing with here. No matter how many people that get arrested and busted and sent away, and by the way, tomorrow there is going to be a longtime state senator who is going to be sentenced down in Jersey. It doesn't do any good. There is something in the air, something in the water.
Something in the air in Jersey.
These people get by with it, and so they'd rather play the odds that they can get a lot of money. Maybe they'll have to go away for a year or two, but they'll come back to a lot of money.
Who's the state senator? That's the first question. Second question is, what does it say that now they're branching out into strange blackmail organ donor markets and Gucci bags and money? I mean,
the state senator is Wayne Bryant, and he's from down in Camden, and he has been involved in politics all of his life. What does it say? Well, I think it says that if you have a criminal enterprise and you want to play the odds that you won't get caught, and if you have a high enough profile and you get caught, you can probably get by lightly. If you look at some of the other people who have been snagged over the years, that's what happened.
Governor Corzine has a statement on this. He says any corruption is unacceptable anywhere, anytime, by anybody. The scale of corruption we're seeing as this unfolds is simply outrageous and cannot be tolerated. You chuckled when I said the governor had a statement. Why?
I wrote my log before I came up here to be with you. I said he was going to say something about it later, and I said, I sure hope it's not as lame as that. I mean, come on. If they want to do something about corruption, then what they need to do is they need to have an attorney general who'll go after corruption. Over the years, and in our book, we have a whole chapter on corruption and judges and law enforcement and the attorney general, and how they do nothing. They go for the little guys. They don't go for the big guys. You have to get the FBI to come in and do that. So if the
My reading of the threat from Iran is that if Iran acquires nuclear weapons, it's an existential threat to the state of Israel, and it is a threat to the region because the other countries in the region will feel a compelling requirement to acquire nuclear weapons as well. Now, we cannot allow a second Holocaust. Let's just make that very clear. But I have proposed